Good evening, everybody. Oh my goodness, I am really ready for this topic tonight. I have to say, between you and I, before we add the gentleman on, I have definitely given them something to work on this week. Where normally the questions are there, I just asked one question and gave a list of topics that they could just really share their heart with. But tonight, it's just going to be a good discussion. And as we say on this show, I don't know what's happening in the world, but men really do talk. Men do talk. It's just about giving them an opportunity to talk, to let them talk real and raw, to be direct, to be honest and open. And it is amazing what the Lord then does with that. And we see that every single week on this show, as I know we're going to see it again tonight, you guys, with our topic, our discussion, our question of the week. The title is, It's a Man's World. Woo! Okay. Oh my gosh. So with that, you guys, let me get my brothers on with me, because I am really excited to have them. Good evening, everybody. Hey, Byron, y'all, I want to prepare you. Byron is ready. He is really ready for this topic. Byron has not hushed. I think he came on and had like 5 minutes. He was quiet, so I didn't know what was up with Byron. But it was like right when it turned 4:59, 4 minutes, 59 seconds, boom, here came Byron. So I cannot wait to see what he's got on the topic. Man, Byron, how are you doing?
I'm doing great, sis.
Good. Well,
I'm ready to cut up a little bit in Byron fashion. Yeah, for sure.
I love it.
It's a man's world.
Don't even start, Byron.
I'm just saying.
Don't you dare. Oh, man. Oh, y'all, Byron's trying to do this thing Byron does where he shows up, you invite him to come hang out with your friends because you want to introduce your brother. And Byron comes and he says, hi, hey, TA's my sister. Nice to see you. It's really nice. And then about 20 minutes when people are feeling comfortable, here comes Byron with something he says that he literally takes a bomb and lights it. No, it doesn't go off yet. It lights on the table, and that's my brother right there. So glad you're with me. And in Byron, we call it BEW form. He's in the house tonight. I love that. Man, and welcome, Jeff. How are you doing tonight? Jeff, you got that serious look. You've been working today, haven't you? You've been dealing today.
I've been up since 5:30 this morning, and then we went and took my dad to the VFW hall today, so we spent a couple hours over there. So it's been a long day, but it's been good.
That's good. That's really good. So you got that. Well, for people like you and I, Jeff, and Byron's the same way. Xavier and Q, I'm not too sure about them, but normally when we don't get sleep, we actually perform sometimes better than we did when we get sleep. So I know you're on point tonight, Jeff. Yeah, 3-4 hours, we're good. Good to have you. Good to have you. Man, and Xavier, I'm going to tell you what my grandbaby said about you. That when she came here, she came into the office where we've got all the pictures of the show, and she looked over there and she goes, there's Uncle X. I said, yes, that's Uncle X. She goes, oh my gosh, Mimi, that smile. Look at that smile. Xavier, look at that smile. He's got a smile, Mimi. Wow, that smile. I said, okay, I don't know what all that meant. I don't know if she was doing a Brianna being sarcastic, or she was doing a Mimi loving on you. I don't know. I just knew get out the room because I didn't know what she's about to say next. So, how are you doing, X?
Doing great. That's kind of funny. She's probably like, X needs to smile a little more in his picture, so I'm surprised he's smiling on this one.
You know what? No, you were full grinning in that picture, so it was just something that lit up the room, and she was taking notice. So excited that you're here, brother. And last but not least, y'all, I'm going to go ahead and preface Q's in rare form too. He is on Pawpaw duty, so don't be shocked if all of a sudden you see a too long pony. Oh, there it is. Hi, me. I see you. I hear you. We've got the grandbaby.
Yeah, she's calling out.
Yeah, she's calling out. So don't be shocked if she intercedes, y'all. If she gives us her 2 cents, because she's got the phone and she's watching. And the other night, she joined me Tuesday night. I'm like, man, somebody's really feeling this message. When I came off the show, she came down. She goes, Mimi, I just loved it. And did you see me? I said, did I see you? She goes, yes, I gave you hearts. I gave you the care. I gave you the thumbs up. Mimi, it was just fantastic. I said, that's who was on. Really feeling my message Tuesday night with my own grandbaby. So, babe, I'm excited to have you on. However we can get you. And excited that you're still, with us tonight, trying to do Pawpaw and be a warrior for the Lord. That's how it works sometimes. So, good evening to you. And with that, you guys, we're going to go ahead and get started. And again, I'm really excited. I'm going to kind of fade the music down a little bit so we don't have it just cut off. But I'm excited about tonight's topic. It's a man's world. And the topic really came to me on Monday. And I texted everybody and I said, look, all I got is It's a Man's World and James Brown. That's all I got. That's all I got. I know what I'm thinking, but I really need to wait for the Lord to tell me more. So just know that's the topic, you guys. And then I really came the very next day, and it was because of the message he brought on Tuesday. I now knew what he was saying. Tuesday's message, if you've not seen it yet, I need you to go and watch it. It's called The Carrying of the Cross. And it is episode 3 of us taking a look at the first Avenger, Captain America, and how when you see the first Avenger, the first movie of the series that came out, and then you see Winter Soldier, woo, my Lord. But then you go into Civil War, you really start to see what he was really created for and the burden, that he carries, the weight of responsibility, and then how he literally had to even stand against people that he fought with, before, and how he was unique and he was different. But the burden, the cross that he decided to pick up, because he chose to become, a superhero for righteousness, for right, for good, to not just be a superhero, but to stand for something, that you really started to see those challenges, those crossfires, crossroads, and just some tough decisions that he had to make to end up with the movie still being called Captain America, because it could have taken a slant and they would have had to put a little subtitle. He was Captain America. But in the end, you saw that, man, I don't know if I could do what he did. But again, he was the first Avenger. And to me, that's the foundational pieces. And the one thing that Captain America stand for was righteousness, was for honesty. But he says it over and over and over in movie 1, 2, and 3. He stood for freedom. Woo, come on, Cap. And it just really got him to even think about freedom of those that even were persecuted, but that got entrapped by the enemy and found themselves on the other side of the fence of the enemy, but that's not who they were. And where so many people wanted to judge and convict, his friend because of all the damage he had done when he wasn't with the Lord. He got ensnared by the enemy. Bucky did some horrible things. But as Captain America showed up and he started to really realize this was his friend, because Captain America used love, even in the moment of when his friend was trying to kill him, he still chose to love on him and say, I'm not going to fight you. That it was a love that started to penetrate and get him to remember who he was, get him to remember his heart, his soul. That lo and behold, we know how the movie ends in Endgame. He ended back up with Christ. but it was because of the love of Captain America standing in that carrying of the cross and not the way of the world, not going the way man had decided because of their own greed, their own feelings, even things that were created with McFurry, and even with Robert Redford, things that they did that they felt were justifications as to why they did it, that man created. You saw Captain America sitting there facing McFurry saying, I'm sorry. This is not freedom and this is not right. You even saw him in Civil War being in a room with everybody that he fought with saying, this is not okay, this is not right. And I'm sorry, I'm just not going to move. I'm calling it out and I'm eradicating it. I'm choosing a side. Well, lo and behold, that's where God really spoke to me about what tonight is. It is about a man's world. And yes, the James Brown song came on Monday, but by Tuesday night, I knew that was just God's way of getting my attention and getting it not to go away, because I've been singing, it's a man's world. I've been singing it, okay, so that I wouldn't forget it. But what God was saying, no, daughter, I'm saying it's a man's world when it should be a God's world. And so I love it because our question tonight is where I've posed to my brothers and my husband. I said, okay, here we go. What are 3 things? And I'll pop up the question here as we dive in, because this is going to be a really good discussion, because again, we know who we're here for and we know what work we're to do. Whether we're having fun and laughing or not, there is a true intentionality to everything that we do on every show. So this is our question of the week, you guys. It's only one versus several questions. What are 3 things that man created that needs to be eradicated or obliterated because it has caused chains of enslavement or downright self-destruction? It has been used by the enemy, even though man created it, because the enemy used man to create something that has just literally destroyed the world, destroyed families, finances, business. I mean, life. I just said any topic, parenting, raising kids, it didn't matter. I don't know where my brothers and my husband are coming tonight, but that is our focus. And so before I go to the first person I want to call on, I want to read a scripture, okay, that I want to let it cover us and let it be really what this is all about. And then I'm going to do some shout outs and welcome everybody. This scripture, and I know I got many of my people on, so if somebody can type this, I love you, because y'all always have my back even though I don't ask it. But we're going to look at 1 John, okay, so again, 1 John chapter 2, verses 15 through 17. Okay, somebody could type that for me. 1 John chapter 2, verses 15 through 17. I'll say it one more time because I know somebody's going to type it for me out of everybody who's joining us tonight. Okay, let me make sure somebody did. So that's going to be 1 John, okay, and then it's going to be chapter 2, verses 15 through 17. So if somebody could type that for me, I would appreciate it. And let's go ahead. Thanks, X. I appreciate it. So let's read that together, you guys. Either if you've got a Bible near you, your app, or you just want me to read it to you, please make sure you always go and read it for yourself. As you hear me preach, especially on Friday when we're diving in the word, don't you dare just go off of what I say. Get in the word, read it for yourself, test it to make sure, even me, that you're getting confirmation. You always hear me say that. What you'll find is you'll get confirmation, but God has got so much more than even what I brought for you. Okay, so much more. Thank you, Eminem, as well, for typing that. I appreciate it. So here we go, you guys. Let's read it, and let's dive into our focus tonight. 1 John chapter 2, 15 through 17 says, do not love this world, nor the things it offers you. For when you love the world, you do not have the love of the Father in you. I'm going to repeat that one more time. I'm not even done with the scripture. Thanks, Azalaine. I appreciate you typing as well, beautiful. Okay, it says, do not love this world, nor the things it offers you. For when you love the world, you do not have the love of the Father in you. For the world offers only a craving for physical pleasure, a craving for everything we see, and pride in our achievements and possessions. These are not from the Father, but are from this world. And this world is fading away, along with everything that people crave. But anyone who does what pleases God will live forever. So I don't know about you, but God's saying, yes, man's creating this world, but that's not my world. And everything that is not of me, I will be fading it. So if you've attached yourself to that, you're going to be fading away. This is pretty direct. This is what this focus is, and this is to me not even everything. This is just what's on the hearts of my brother and my husband as to things that they came up with. I know that I've got three, just because I've dealt with it for so long, and I'm like, man, we need to get rid of that. That needs to go, because it's not even being effective, and it's just downright destroying, and it's wrong. Not just wrong because you're doing something wrong to somebody. It's just wrong. Like, it ain't even right. It's not even accurate. Okay, and so with that, I'm going to go ahead and start off. And again, let me just welcome everybody. Lord, I heard you. Come on, Tracy. Welcome, Virginia. So excited you've joined me, my beautiful Virginia Flores. Welcome, beautiful Carol Pippin. Woo, so glad you're in the house. Man, welcome, Christy Stroh, my beautiful sister. So glad that you joined us tonight. Girl, you are, again, you're hitting every show. I don't know when that's going to turn to top fan, but girl, I'll have to go right to Facebook and say, she's overdue, Facebook, she's overdue. Welcome, Rolando, Olivia Gomez, so excited you've joined me. Welcome, Irene Dillard, my beautiful friend, so excited you've joined me as well. Kenrick Lakeo, welcome, brother, so excited that you joined us tonight for Men Do Talk. Welcome, there she is, Tammy Gustafon, so excited that you're here tonight. So excited, you've been joining me almost every show. I look for you, so I'm so excited that you're with me again tonight. And then also, welcome you guys, Karina Stipik. Beautiful Karina, so excited that you joined us. You're here every Thursday night. So excited, you and your husband both. And then welcome Dennis McKay. So excited that you joined. Or is it Denise? It's Denise. That's right. There's Denise. So excited that you joined me. I see the E on the end, sis. Welcome, welcome, welcome. So glad that you're here. Liza Love, Miss Gorgeous. Just downright gorgeous girl. I'll just say it. Welcome, welcome. I've missed you. And so excited you were able to join us tonight for this topic. And there's Tim. Tim, I was wondering where you were, Mr. Tim Stipik. There you are. Can't start without you. I was going to hold the show up. Okay. So I'm glad that you're here, because people would have been upset. So I'm glad you're here. Hello, Marlon Bell. Excited to see you, brother. Welcome to Men Do Talk. Eminem is in the house. So excited you're here. Angelia Anderson, welcome, welcome. Hey, Marcos Garcia, welcome, welcome. So excited you joined us tonight, brother. As Elaine, I've already said welcome because you helped me with typing in a scripture. So beautiful. So glad that you're here as well. And then, man, there's my boy, Hubert Smith. Hubert, I love you. So glad that you've joined me as well. Talk about a brother that is about the word. Woo, come on now. That is a brother about the word. Sister Sharon Stewart, got your text. I'll call you when this is over. Okay, lifting up my girl in prayer. Okay, Victor Centennial, Makata, welcome, welcome. So glad that you're here. Shamika Powell, oh my goodness, so glad that you're here. Welcome to Men Do Talk. My beautiful Carrie Pridemore, praying for you, hoping you're feeling better, sis. I've had you on my heart. Oh my goodness, so many of you guys, man, just welcome, welcome, welcome. And please make sure you do one thing right now as we dive in, because we always try to start 15 after, and that's the cue. It's 16 after to give people a chance to get the notification. But I need you to share right now. Okay, that is so something, again, that I'm going to just beat on everybody's head. Please share right now, because you may get excited and be like, oh my God, that was a great message, and log off, go take a shower. Please share right now, you guys, so that we can do our job to get this to whoever God has it for. All we got to do is share, and God decides who watches it, who gets it. So let's go ahead and dive into our question for tonight, and only because he really hasn't had any sleep, and I just joked about how he's at his best when he's not had a lot of sleep. I'm going to Jeff. I got to suck him dry, y'all. There's only a little bit left of Jeff. I got to just squeeze and get the juice out. So Jeff, okay, this is a deep topic, just like last week was, okay? I think God's taking us deeper and deeper and deeper, because we got to go deep with everything going on. But what's one of the things that you truly feel has got to go? Because you see the havoc, the damage, you feel that maybe it's enslavement, self-destruction, and it just needs to die. Something man created, and it doesn't even belong here. What's the first one that you have on your list?
I would say my observation over the course of the last 6 years, 5-6 years, I think people have lost what the understanding and what the connection is to idolatry.
Woo.
The level of commitment that people have to things outside of Christ, the level of belief and the level of camaraderie that they develop behind something that is not Christ-like, and defend tooth and nail. You know, they're out in the streets fighting and, drawing blood and taking lives over something that doesn't come from God.
Mm-hmm.
And, and I see what we call good people that are in your life, people that you care about, people that you think have your back, get caught up in it. And the ability to maneuver and manipulate people that are caught up in that is one of the most dangerous things that we've ever experienced on earth.
Yeah.
Everybody knows the things that have come from that type of behavior.
Mm-hmm.
And we see it now, and we see it close up. It's not a foreign land having that behavior coming to attack us. It's our neighbors.
Woo.
So I think that's one of the things that scares me the most, because there's twofold to it. There's the group of people who want to be a part of that,
mm-hmm.
and then there's the people within that group that are missing something, that choose to be a part of that because they're not getting that feeling from something else.
Mm-hmm.
They're not connected to Christ, so they find this thing that they believe, and the feeling feels like, brotherhood, sisterhood, belonging.
Right. Right.
So they get caught up in that without ever analyzing really what the net result is of being in that behavior and behaving in that manner with that group of people.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's one of the things that has been a concern of mine for the last 5 or 6 years, that people get caught up in that so easily, and then if you notice, even the people that you considered your brothers and sisters in Christ, the communication that you see in social media, the direct communication with you, how they communicate about their family and what's important to them,
mm-hmm.
the Christ part of it disappears after a period of time.
Come on.
Because they're caught up in that belief system that tells them that their position
mm-hmm.
is more important than that person that they're following, or that group that they're following, or what they belong to is more important than that. Mm-hmm. And then you see that influence go into the church.
Oh, wow. Okay. Now I'm about to agree with some of the comments that have already started coming in. Okay, yeah. Go ahead.
So that's one topic.
Yeah, yeah. Actually, Jeff, that's a huge one. And the reason why I say it's huge, and I wish I could go move that quick, but while you're talking, if I can get it, and I'm hoping God will take me to it, that is actually one of the things that is identified in Revelations. As to why there's people who really think that they are with Christ, but they end up not being with Christ, and how they end up, and I just use my words, on the wrong side. And then they end up being entrapped. We could go into taking the number of the beast and not being strong enough to stand, and all of these different things. We can unfold the Revelations. I'm sure God is probably going to have us dive into Revelations as men to talk about it. This would be the best place to do it, in a discussion. So I see this as beyond serious. This is just downright, we got to burn it to a crisp, and blow the ashes, like literally ask God to blow it, because it'll never be able to form again. Because we did see this in 2020. Heck, we started at the beginning of 2021 with the Capitol. Hello. We saw that. And so that's a really good one, Jeff. I'm going to say Byron for after Xavier, because we're going to the top, with that. So Xavier, I'm going to go to you. Now, Xavier, you're looking really chilled tonight. So, and I could tell you were really working on your answers. And you were the first one to respond when I put this topic in our group, so I know what that means normally for you. Like, oh, wow. Okay. All right. And I don't know what you got, but I am excited to hear your first one of what you feel, and I'm just going to be straight. It needs to go, period.
Definitely. I know I know you gave us different options, right? And one of those things was parenting, right?
Mm-hmm.
I know a lot of men that parent boys, right?
Mm-hmm.
And this is one of the things that I feel needs to go, right? And it's, whenever their son is, crying and everything like that, they're kind of like, hey, don't cry, shut up, man up, like telling them, hey, stop crying, don't cry, you're okay.
I need to give you hearts, X.
It doesn't allow the child to, express their emotions, express their feelings. And, for me, it's, psychologically disruptive, when it comes to a point where you're thinking about a child's mental state at that age. They're so young, and you're telling them, hey, be quiet, like, stop crying, you're okay, don't worry, no, man up, like, stop, you're not supposed to cry, like, you're a man, it's okay, like, no, you're a man. Men don't cry. Don't cry.
Come on.
And it becomes a point where they grow up and they become emotionless, right? And it's crazy because a situation like that happened with my son, and it was somebody else telling like me, like, yo, hey, you got to be a little more aggressive with your son and tell him, hey, stop making him be so sensitive. And I'm like, listen, man, I'm gonna tell you straight up, like, I was so mad. I wasn't mad, but I was at the same time, I was like, listen, when I was a kid, I was very introverted, very sensitive, very quiet. I shared my emotion. I was always just crying and stuff like that, right? So, it became a point where I was like, and here comes my son in the background. That's funny. But you talking about me? Hey, but it became something to me where it was like, hey, no, that's not the way I'm raising my son. I'm not raising my son to be one of these hardcore gangster guys. So when they grow up, they start becoming these, not emotionalist type of guys and not being able to show their emotions and stuff like that. So, I would strongly encourage that if you're a father out there and you have sons and stuff like that, allow them to share their emotions. Allow your children to share their emotions. If a child falls on the floor and they cry, hey, they're a kid. They're supposed to cry. That's supposed to happen. They're not supposed to not cry, So that's one thing as far as parenting that I would strongly encourage that, people start, I guess, adjusting, especially men out there when they have boys, because it does cause a lot of psychological issues at that age when they grow up in the long run.
Well, I'm going to sit here and tell you, and I'm just going to say this, it's not just boys. It's how even, let's just say single moms, are raising their daughters, because of things that they've gone through, being left alone, and not wanting their daughters to be forsaken by a man, broken down by a man. They feel they've got to raise their daughter to be tough, to not cry, to not express, to not feel, because of what they went through, this is their way of, in their mind, making sure that their daughter is tough and bulletproof and strong. But then what's happening to that heart? Oh,
that's true.
Okay, what's happening to that heart? And so I do know that is happening on both sides, and it really does cause this psychological damage, emotional damage. And we see what happens when people don't get to express what they feel. We've seen what happens, and that causes a lot of other damage. And not only that, they then, not even trying to, can even afflict and hurt other people, as well. So this is pretty man. Wow, Lord. Okay. That is really, 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 really good, Xavier, because we got to undo that. That's got to go. Because I know some strong emotional.
It's crazy thinking about that. I didn't think about it in a woman's perspective, right? Like a single mom, right? Raising up women and, a single mom being hurt by a man, and them starting to teach their little girl. They're not raising, a girl to be a woman. They're raising them more to be a man, like to be independent, to not care about men, to not, to just think about themselves and stuff like that. Like, I hear girls all the time, post up on Facebook like, men ain't beep. And I'm kind of like, whoa, no. The men that you decide ain't.
Come on.
Not all
stop.
men.
You're going into one of mine right now.
and it's crazy because I start thinking, and I know that they have little kids, and I know the stuff that they put in their little kids' head. And, it just becomes disturbing to me. Like, man, I'm pretty sure you don't have a great either a co-parenting relationship with your the other half, which means that the kids aren't seeing that type of co-parenting relationship, which means that they don't know what it's like when it comes to parenting. They're being taught like, hey, I don't need a man, I don't want a man.
Yeah.
And then it's very disruptive. Very, very, very.
Yeah, it is. Wow, those are absolutely two big ones. And I like what Sharon says here, because this is something that people do, that if they can't get them to stop, they'll say, I'm going to give you something to cry about. You saw that comment, and that right there, is something that is used. And, I was having this discussion, I think, it was with somebody today, that I think, and one of the reasons why we see that I think it's a couple of reasons, but two things that I've identified, and I don't want to lose both, so let me hurry up and blurt it out, is one, because they can't handle their own emotions in that. So they want the child to be quiet because they can't deal with their own emotions, that they are feeling. And then it has a lot to do with not just the emotions, but also because they've never dealt with that to press forward through it. Okay, so and then they don't know how to press through it, how to get their child to press through it. So then the only way is just by, and I go to John C. Maxwell, just do because I tell you to do, and so it really is a very damaging thing, because the mental effects, the emotional effects that you see are just things that we know aren't just in a child, just at their age. It's now being planted. And as they grow older and all the afflictions, it's being fertilized, and it affects, I tell people there's genes and then there's DNA, as I said on Monday. Our genes can be things tied to our family, but our DNA is supposed to be with Christ. Okay, so we talked about that on Monday. Monday's show was deep to the point that I really want to invest in what we're working on for kids, but I felt this need. I told Quint, I feel this need that God is saying, look, I want you to circulate it out there. I just want you to also invest in this. And lo and behold, for those who, because we have a lot of pastors on tonight, if you found that when you were circulating your messages, it wasn't getting to people, we just got a notification this week from Facebook that there was a band that they put on. Just got to hurry up and say this. It was only meant to be for the elections, but because of all the havoc they saw, they left that band on all the way from the elections until just now when it got released. Because immediately when I did my campaigns, it went and it's circulating. I thought, whoa. Okay, so just FYI, we got a lot of pastors on tonight. I know you guys. We got Dominion Life Church on. I know my pastor's there. Redo your messages, okay? Because mine, I put it in last night. Within hours, it was out there. So it's not Facebook trying to hush the church, okay? It's not Facebook trying to not let the Lord be heard. It was their way of dealing with all the havoc and not being persecuted or thrown in because Facebook was participating in it. Just going to say that real quick. Okay, back to the message because that was powerful, okay? I like what Dominion Life Church says, that independence can be good as well as harmful. Our moms think they are doing what we need, but they should be, and there should be a balance of some women, but they can't handle their independence. Too much independence can be prideful. And that's from Pastor Deborah. Woo, talk about a woman that's a warrior, because she just spoke at our leadership, in January. Also like where Tim says, very good X, need to express emotions, though perhaps the men shouldn't cry louder than the woman during the same movie. It's all right, Tim. It's all right, brother. Cry all you want to.
Hey, I watch The Notebook. I'll be crying louder than anyone.
Don't worry. No matter what anybody tease you, Tim, we got your back. Oh, man. Liza Love says, coming from a parent who was brought up as kids are seen but not heard, old school thinking, this is really generational habits. And I'm agreeing with you. Things that need to be broke. Okay. And again, and wow, Lord, I'm hearing you multiple. So I hope I do everything you're wanting me to do. You guys, that is so why, even if you can't join me Friday mornings, I need you to go watch that, because what God is doing on Friday is taking us back to the beginning when he re-solidified his covenant with his people. He literally hadn't talked to them for 400 years. And he re-solidified it through David's son Solomon. And Solomon was the one to speak it as to how it's supposed to be. And he covers things like the court system. He covers things when we sin. He's laying down the law again, but expounding. And we're covering that, because here's the thing, and everything we just went through, we can't go back and do what God was just showing us not to do. We got to uproot things. Those things have got to go. We can't do repeat again. God is looking for change. And so just wanted to kind of share that. That was really good, Xavier. And so, Byron, I'm going to come to you next, because I really was excited. I like when you're excited, Byron, because I get excited, and you were ready. And you had more than 3. So I know you're going to try to cheat and get more in, but I'm going to watch you. My eyes on you, Byron. Okay? So with that, I'm ready for your first one that you want to choose, that you feel like, if I only get 3, this one's got to be discussed. See that
If
look,
I
you don't
only get
cheat. You
no,
don't
no,
cheat. No,
no.
look at that face. You about to cheat.
You know, it's funny because I told you, you know, when you sent this, you know, I had to go to the Lord to forgive you, right? Because this was going to be work, you know. But it became inspirational. In fact, you know, I snuck in and had a little conversation with Miss Stippick that's on the call.
Good.
You know, and she heard me talking, you know, bad mouthing you, but I got inspired, you know, through this conversation, just bringing it up and talking about it. And I knew that was just the Lord, you know, feeding me and just basically saying some things. And the cool thing is, one of the things I have is what Jeff touched on. So I'm gonna touch on that, but I want to give, I want to second man, my man X. I'm down with that. You know, I am so down with the whole piece about, you know, fathering and your responsibility as a father, and the fact that you're going to empower your son to do one of the things that Jesus himself just basically led by example is the ability to love, the ability to express yourself, to forgive. You know, if you want to use the word strength, have strength in your relationship with Christ. You know, everything else, as far as it matters with strength, you know, it doesn't matter. That's the strength. Have strength in your faith and how he can serve you. Your son, right? You know, my child. I have a daughter, but I remember, you know, to Tracy's point, and I was thinking the same thing. And here Tracy took it from a woman's perspective. I was going to toss that in there because I have a son, I have a daughter. I remember her falling down, you know, playing soccer, taught at an early age, and her mother was very competitive. In fact, she ran the game with her daughter most of the time, you know, up and down the field, which was kind of entertaining. Brittany takes a nosedive, and literally comes out with a mouthful of dirt, and the mother says, get up, don't cry, don't cry." And I'm thinking, no, this is a moment my child can cry. You know, I'm just like, no, she gets to cry right now.
Yeah.
Sit down. You know.
Yeah.
So I can love and appreciate, you know, seeing the value in allowing our kids to be emotional, emotional in the sense though, understanding that, you know, there's healthy ways to deal with that. It's okay to be hurt. It's okay to cry, so on and so forth. But realize that that's normal and that's acceptable. I myself was like you. Still today, you know, I thought I was going to grow up and not cry anymore. I can cry with the best of them today, brother. You know, I, I have to step away from the TV sometimes so I can, you know, stop crying. Them commercials be killing me sometimes. Anyway. All right. So I just had to say that I can absolutely relate and appreciate that. In fact, one last thing, I started off with the group and told them I've been stuck in Deuteronomy for about a week now, and the Lord won't let me get out of this book per se, and there's one piece that I was reading. You know, the piece was talking about is Deuteronomy 6 talks about loving God, and Tracy was talking about love, and I just keep hearing that as a general theme for us, right? Today, even with what you said, brother, right? Love. The other piece was, you know, to jump out, and I just had to stop, was talking about, you know, God providing you blessings, and also there's curses, right? It's chapter 11, verse 26 talks about the blessing and the curse. You have to understand by being obedient, right? You will be afforded those blessings, but you also have to understand that when you are not obedient, you leave yourself subject to, you know, those curses, right? Whether it be, you know, one of the things we fear the most, and we talked about this, or I mentioned this last week, was generational curses and the importance of a father, right? The role we play, that I said, in championing and destroying, identifying what those curses are in your family and putting an end to it, right? And that's true. That's number one, by being obedient, teaching obedience to your kids, and just teaching them, going back to that thing, how to love, right? And how to have that relationship with Christ. Show them by example, and literally, you know, absolutely through love, you can have a relationship with not only your parents, but a most importantly with Christ, and with the Lord. Ideology. My brother touched on one of my three. In Jeff fashion, man, we're always kind of, you know, like-minded. And I knew this was going to happen to me, but I'm gonna touch on it anyway because I want to expand on what Jeff said.
Word.
So I talked about modern ideology and idealism, and that's very close to what Jeff was kind of speaking on. Having idolizing the wrong things, right? I mean, absolutely. Moses had witnessed and and came down and basically slapped the Ten Commandments on many of people at a time where they were idealizing false gods and so on and so forth. But for me, I just want to say real quick, I want to kind of define it and just kind of go from there. So it's understood to be a set of doctrines or beliefs that are shared by members of a social group, to Jeff's point, or that forms the basis of political, economic, or other systems, right? And so to me, since I've already spoke a lot, and I think Jeff touched on it enough that I don't have to expand on it too much. My takeaway was when your love of a belief, or when your love has got to the point where you are idealizing and you're so focused on a social group, a political group, a belief, some system, right, that does not nurture your relationship with Christ.
That's good, Byron.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Then you can absolutely check yourself, right? You can realize that you can realize that you are focused to the left when you need to be focused to the right, or focused straight ahead. And actually, let's nix that. Focus upwards, right? Because when you're down here and you're looking, your eyes are down on the ground, right? You're basically looking at supporting these people that are earthbound, right? I can guarantee you there ain't nothing about what's happening here on this plane that will assure you your way into heaven, right? So you can replace the one thing you should be focused on, which is your relationship with Christ, and absolutely obeying Him and loving Him and following His commandments. That is the best thing that you could share with your family, your kids, to afford them being saved. So that was my one that I had. I think we need to uproot the practice of idolizing things other than the Lord.
Amen. And I like what you gave, Byron, was also, which it's weird with my message Monday, God brought something different and didn't even touch on what He gave me on the note. So I told everybody, okay, there's a part 2, because I really do let God lead. There's a part 2. And what I'm hearing here, there may be a part 2 to this, because, we can say what needs to happen, but then there still comes that question of how do we approach that? How do we handle it? And I think I would love to see next week that the things that you guys brought is for you guys now to say, if this was me or this is me, this is how I can approach this situation to change it. Because sometimes when we have the best of intentions to eradicate something, the way we go about it is just as destructive as what was happening. We don't know. Look at all these amens. So I guess I'm hitting a button. So I think what I would love to go ahead and put next week's out, so y'all feel y'all get enough notice. That what you're bringing tonight, then if someone is there or they, how then would you say as believers and followers of Christ that we need to approach it? Because I like what Byron says, then to approach it, then we're going to go to how God would approach it. Because if not, then we would have to question if it's really just us, So I like that, Byron. You kind of set up next week, and I heard it because it happened to me on Tuesday. There's a part 2. I didn't even get to my notes. And so...
Well, I can tell you, sis, and apologize for cutting you off, but you know how often this happens between you and I. I was going to use the word part 2 in one of mine to suggest, and I might still get a chance to cover it, to suggest doing just that, sis.
That's good.
So I love when I get that confirmation that, yeah, that's a good one. Throw that one out there. You already have that. I love when that happmes.
Well, I love it because it lets me know, okay, Tracy, just do this and you are on the right side of the fence. Because as a person who sits in this seat, and Byron, you know how I feel about this. Quint, this is a very, hot seat. God's putting you as a front runner, and you better be leading His children right, because he talks about when you lead them wrong, what happens. And there's a lot of false prophets. So I always like when this happens because it means, cool, then I'm on the right fence. Go, Jesus! And keep moving. Because I'm nervous every time I sit in this chair. Quint will tell you, I get nervous, but I know I got to be obedient and just know God shows up.
I got your back.
Thanks, Byron.
About that.
Thanks, Byron. I appreciate that. Well, you guys, tonight our topic, and I see that we got more people jumping on. I need you to share this one. Again, we're going to have some great topics. We're going to laugh and have a lot of fun, but let's be clear. This is a TA for Christ production. This is about doing the Lord's work, but it's about having these conversations. And I say this because I am so about the church, but I don't know if the church can have these conversations because they have a role that God has given. And I believe that it's about either the church extending something, an arm to the community, or it's about God calling us, his children, to do it. And he talks about it in the word. We got to do it. Okay, so that doesn't mean bad church. It just means that God says, okay, so didn't y'all receive me too, children? Which is why I believe that one of the things I want to teach is how do you lead somebody to Christ? That's just not on the church to do it. We go ahead, come to church, and we hope they get led to Christ when I've read places where God says, no, you feed my children. You lead them to me. And I just think if we got the church fighting the war and we're fighting the war, then where is the enemy going to be able to reign at? Okay? We're moving him out is what we're doing. So just got to get that little 2 cents in. And so I want to just do some shout outs, and welcome everybody who's kind of joined. Hey, Desmond, Scott, so glad that you joined me. Welcome, welcome. Welcome also Stephanie Jim, excited that you've joined as well. Ernie Smith, welcome to the show. We are talking about it's a man's world and not just James Brown, okay, but that's a great song, but really about what man's created and what has to be uprooted. We cannot go hit repeat as God is really bringing and eradicating the enemy that he allowed to do his work in 2020. I like when God says, yeah, I brought it, but I'm about to take him out, and I believe he's doing that. But it's not for us to go the same way back again, which is why I don't think he let us get out of it quickly. He was teaching a lesson, and the lesson was change, okay, not go back to the same. And so, man, there's Brian. I knew you were coming, brother. So excited that you're here, Brian Pidemore. Man, Mama O, welcome, welcome, welcome. So excited you're here. Sister Patty, again, so excited, lifting up your healing. Man, talk about a supernatural miracle the Lord did with her. Woo, he's moving, y'all. I'm telling you, he's moving. Excited you're here. Samantha Davis Hall, welcome, welcome. Sarah Miguel Renteria, welcome. So glad that you're here. I think it's either George Samudio or it's Jorge Samudio. Welcome, welcome. So glad that you're here as well. Man, I'm loving these comments. Kendrick Isagiri, so excited to have you back again. Excited to have you back. I'm really excited when people come back. Eves Blaine, welcome, welcome. So excited you're here. Man, there she is. Lovely Letitia Fight Wheaton. Look at God bringing your hair back, girl. Come on. Woo, talk about defeating cancer, sis. And now you got your hair growing back tight, girl. That's what I'm talking about. Won't he do it, you guys? Omar Hoare, so excited that you're here. D Brown, so excited that you're here. Man, a lot of people on, which is why I'm going to say, you guys, we continue to dive into this deep topic. I need you to share this. This is something you're going to hear me go hard. You're going to be like, man, she keeps beating that. Yes, I'm going to, because I don't believe that God's doing great things just for us to keep it to ourselves. I think if he puts a fire and he shows up like he shows up here, he's showing up here. So if you knew God showed up here, wouldn't you want to invite other people to be with God? That's how I look at a share. So please make sure you share it, you guys. I really want to put fire on the share option so we can get the word out. And so with that, Q, I'm going to come to you. I know you were on the job. You're on the job with little Brianna, little Mimi over there, little superhero Boogie. I saw you a couple times with that Colonel face, putting her in her place, so I knew what that meant, because she wants to be in the picture. I know her. She will eventually be next to me, so she's ready. We just got to practice a little bit. And so I'm going to hurry up and get you. Look at you got to tell her to hush. Miss Boogie, be quiet. Let Papa do his job. So Papa, I'm going to call you Papa tonight. Look at him multitasking. This is when God's got you fighting over here and dealing over here. Go on. Woo! So Papa, what's either one that you can bring, or even if you just want to, because you're multitasking, so I get it. What's something that's on your heart or something you want to share, even to what you've heard so far?
I would say the one thing I think that man has created that we need to get rid of is religion.
Ooh,
Man created religion. God didn't.
come on.
God created his son. God created
Oh,
worship of him.
come on, hearts.
And he gave us a way to do it.
Mm.
Man has created multiple different religions, multiple different ways of worshiping him, multiple different forms, multiple different traditions. And religion has, I mean, don't get me wrong, it's been the birth of many good things in mankind, but also many very devastating things.
Mm-hmm.
But it is the seed that leads to some of what the fellas have already talked about: idolatry, of these other things, putting men above God, putting other things above God,
Mm-hmm.
right? Or worshiping God or false gods, but worshiping God in a way that is not how he directed it, right? Not how he wanted it to be.
Mm.
I mean, you can go back and read the Old Testament and see how the worship began to go by the wayside because they weren't worshiping him the way he said it was the right way to do so.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, religion needs to go, need to get rid of it, need to get focused on Jesus.
And I'm going to come next to you, as your Deborah, to side with you, King, because we studied Deborah, and that's a very powerful thing for men to study and women to study. But I'm going to say 100% because we go back to one of the biggest things that I believe that God did, besides allowing his son to be the sacrificial lamb to reset everything and to take the keys of death so that he owns death. Death is no longer owned, so that we can, be sinners and repent and be with Christ and have everlasting life. There's nothing above that. But for me, especially for me, it's when he tore the veil. Because to me, if he wanted us to still have to go through a holy one or a priest or a pastor or man, he would have kept that veil up. He would have let everything else destroy, but he would have kept that up, saying this is still how we roll. But he tore that because he wants his children to know you can come to me any day and there's nothing that should be in between you and I will touch you. I will teach you. I will guide you. I will love you. I will hold you. I will provide for you. I'll give you the answers. I'll talk to you even through the holy word. It's like he really says, y'all got it wrong. You keep putting man, and I mean man or woman. You keep putting idols. You keep putting things even in between me and you. And then I'm just somebody you come to when you pray, when you want something, when you're hurting. But man, I got far more things for you. I want to be your all be all. And I feel like there's things, and yes, religion is one of them. I think even us as believers can be, even in our own greatest intentions, we end up putting ourselves in that place, okay, where God, is supposed to be when it comes to judging people, correcting people, trying to tell people how to be, what they should be doing, criticizing people, when really God's the only one that has the right to do that, which is why when we listen to other people, we are, believe it or not, becoming sinners when we listen to other people, because we are supposed to listen to one person, God. And then what God will do is to send people to support what he has said. Kind of like what you just saw with me and Byron. There I was saying, I think there's a part 2, and lo and behold, God gave that to Byron. That's how God confirms that to me. And especially when there's going to be false prophets, we got to be careful, because there's even good people that the enemy will use. We got to be careful. So I want to stand with you in that, Quint, because that's one of the biggest ones to me right there. God says you don't need anybody else, other than me. But he'll put people in your life to continue to guide you, support you, to help you become who he wants you to be. It's about his purpose. And so I love that, because that veil, when I really understood how it was that only one priest, maybe 2 or 3, but it was only one, once a year. I want to make sure everybody understands this, the way it was. Once a year, that priest would go to the holy place to sacrifice and repent for everybody. One person. So if that person, we saw in the Bible, was not righteous, was not down, there were some high priestesses that were not. Heck, you go look at who Solomon was hanging with, where Solomon, Samuel was actually put in a home with some of the most crooked, highest priests of all that were put in charge of many things. And God allowed that. But he knew that he had a plan on Samuel to anoint David, But where was he brought up at? In a house full of some wrong people, but there were people that were the highest of the priests. So it just really allows us then to hear God over anybody else. Because I think I said this to my dad and my brother. Let's just say the internet went out and we got to a place where the enemy sold somebody out that they said they were going to burn every Bible. How would you hear God? It's that relationship with him, building that muscle of being able to hear him, through discerning, through what God says is a third level frequency. He says it in the word, that I will tell you what to do, what not to do. It is a voice, he says, behind you. That's me. Not the one in front of you, the word says, or even you. It's a third voice. So I just love what you said, baby, because to me, I'm thinking about the future. I'm thinking about revelations. I'm thinking about things to come. That right there is also a very big one as well. And Boogie did good, by the way. Tell her Mimi said she did good. And so with that, I am ready to go to the next one here. And I'm going to kind of go. Everybody gets to go first, because it's 3 times I can go around. And so, X, I'm going to come to you next. Okay, what is your next one? What's number 2 for you? Because, man, you brothers are really bringing a great discussion tonight.
Too good. I'm like looking at my notes like, oh man, God, okay. Well, the next thing I brought up, and it's just based on my experience, being in the Army, and I know I talked about this before in the past, where I talked about how, the negative stigma of, seeking mental health, as far as, looking for ways to better your health,
Still in my come on.
And it's pretty neat, because I actually spoke to a captain the other day, and I was, asking her how everything's going in the military, and she was like, yeah, I actually spoke to mental health the other day. And I'm like, they're allowing that now? And she was like, yeah, they're allowing that. So I'm like, okay, that's even good that they're starting to change their the way they function or whatever like that, because when I was in the military, especially when I was in 238 Cav and I was surrounded by a whole bunch of Rangers, it was always like, hey, suck it up, Buttercup. Ranger up, let's go. Ooh, let's go. And, the Marines, hoorah, hoorah. So it's just that type of alpha energy.
Go X.
The topic that I want to talk about here is mental health, seeking mental health. And this isn't just about Army. This is about, it's about, me personally. I got divorced, right? And it's something that I had to deal with, seeking therapy, going to seek therapy. My children had to seek therapy for the whole divorce situation and everything like that. So, I speak to a lot of people, right, that go through a lot of situations in life. And I always ask them the simple question: Have you sought counseling? Mm-hmm. Have you sought therapy? Mm-hmm. Have you spoken to anybody about what you're going through? Mm-hmm. And they're just like, no. And I'm like, why haven't you done that? Why don't you do that? You need somebody to speak to be an outlet, And they're just like, well, I don't feel like, I could let these emotions out to just anybody. I'm like, hey, that's the perfect person to speak to, a licensed professional person that could actually listen to you, rather than speaking to somebody that, you may feel will tell your personal business out. Mm-hmm. Go get counseling and seek that to get the healing that you need, right?
Right.
Because when you think about it, people that end up not seeking that stuff, especially in the military, I've seen, oh my God, we come back from deployments. I've seen soldiers that come back, have depression, come back and just commit suicide in the barracks.
Yeah.
End up murdering themselves, their family members. I've literally seen that type of stuff, and had to deal with that in my unit. And I'm like, wow. Or seen people bullying each other just because they want to make themselves feel better just because of everything that they're going through in life, you know, and a lot of crimes that are caused from just this mental instability. And, you know, I always tell people like, yo, you need to seek that therapy, get the healing that you need to be a better person and heal from it, you know. Especially, you know, there's multiple things you could talk about here. You could talk about relationships. When you get out of a relationship, don't jump into a next one. Take your time, get the healing that you need, get rid of all that toxic stuff, and then, you know, get into a good relationship or whatever like that. But it's just like the show says, men need to talk, women need to talk.
Come on.
You know,
come on.
If you need, you know, if you know that you're dealing with something in life, seek professional help, you know, seek the Lord, of course, seek the Lord. But, you know, there comes a time where, you know, you're just mental state where it's all, you know, there's spiritual and there's, you know, mental, and you're just in a mental state where you're kind of like frustrated in a situation where you need to seek and talk to somebody, you know. And a lot of us are kind of in the positions where we don't want to speak to, we're afraid, you know, we're afraid to talk to people, or we're not afraid, we're embarrassed. That's a good word. We're embarrassed.
That's good.
We're embarrassed of what others might want to, what others might think about us. But you know, we never get the proper healing that we need to get if we don't let it all out and we don't properly heal the way that we need to heal. So that's something that I feel that, you know, needs to change as far as the whole society in general of, you know, I know it's becoming a big notion that a lot of people are talking about mental awareness, mental health, and it's now becoming a big thing, right? And I love that, right?
Right.
But you know,
still have to go. You can be out there, but if they don't go, it doesn't matter.
It just needs to happen, right? And I see Joanne saying, you know, my daughter refuses to go. She finally went today, which is good, you know, because I'm telling you, counseling, it's a healing process. The first time you go, you feel,
you do.
and then you go the second time, and it's like, and the third time, then it becomes a process, right? And here's what I told somebody the other day, right? I'm like, listen, because they're like, I went to counseling and I stopped. I was like, why did you stop? It's kind of like going to the gym, right? You know, we go to the gym. Like, you don't just stop going to the gym. I asked that person, how many times you go to the gym? She's like 5-6 times a week. I'm like, okay, right, for an hour, right? So go ahead and seek counseling like every month, every other week or whatever like that, and make it a habit so that way, you know, you feel better, but you consistently go so that way you just continue to feel the way that you need to feel, and it doesn't leave you, you know? So
yeah.
I know
I like
I'm
that one.
but
That's okay, because what you just did is you tied it to literally one of the ones that we talked about, which is what you brought, is the whole parenting. But if it's in the parenting where you don't cry, you don't feel, you don't have emotions, you don't hurt, be a man, be a woman, then even if there's all this awareness out there, no one's going to go and get it because they're not supposed to feel. They're not supposed to be hurting. They're supposed to be rock solid. All those things are weak, which is another level. I hear God is saying some of these things, the enemy has put Legos together. Okay, he has locked things together to make his fort.
That is it.
He's built a building that can't be broken, and we've got to take it apart. So I absolutely love that, because then it doesn't matter. And yes, there's things about the military, what it teaches you. Those things have got to be undone. You know, you're teaching them something for a mission, but what they're learning in a mission becomes how they live life. Then they have all these issues and problems and don't know what's going on because this is just who they are. They don't see the issue. And so that is just really powerful, Xavier. And again, welcome you guys if you're just joining us. You know, I want to make sure everybody understands the discussion. You know, so I'm going to pop it back up here again. This is our question for the week here with the Men's Do Talk. And this is always at least an hour and a half to 2 hour show. I'm just going to tell you, I let God do it, and I let these men decide if they just got one answer, 2 answers, 3-4 minute answers. But our focus this week is what are 3 things that man has created that needs to be eradicated right now, or just downright obliterated, because it has caused change of enslavement or downright self-destruction. It is the plans and the schemes of the enemy. God has set us free, but we're creating change to put us back into slavery. Okay, and we've got to really undo these things. And then when you hear it, and you hear the truth and you even go to the Lord, you can't stay in it now, because once you know the truth, okay, now God's spoken, now you've got wisdom. He says it's disobedience if you still go back to the same thing now. Woo, come on. That's a whole nother level. God wants to keep us free. Okay, so thank you, X, for that. And so I want to come to you, Q, next, just because I want to take advantage of every moment you got quiet times so we can get you to answer. Okay, and so what's another one that you would say is something that really needs to be done with? Man, it keeps wanting to go back to a full screen of Xavier for some reason. X, it wants to magnify your looks, Bubba. So let me lock it. Hold on. Let me unlock it and get it back to the scene. Go ahead, Q, as I remove X from being the main focus here. Hold on. Go ahead, you guys. Undo lock scene.
Yeah, I hope you saw that your granddaughter texted on this show.
I did. I actually popped it up here. So yeah.
Yeah. So I think my next thing that I believe man has created that needs to just get thrown out, destroyed, whatever, is this belief in humanism.
Yeah.
My mom used to try and preach this to me when I was younger, and I was like, I don't want to hear that. No, I don't believe that. Mankind can do all kinds of stuff, right? And she just, no, that's just a subtle lie that the enemy is getting in there to put man in this place of elevation, rather than being humble and dependent upon the Lord. And so humanism, I think, is about edifying man, elevating man.
Come on.
When I say man and woman, mankind.
That's good. That's good.
It's not relegated to a sex. So there's danger in that. And I think that's just something that kind of like goes back to what Jeff started with. It goes back to idolatry. We're raising man to be greater than God. We are raising man up to be God. And then when you couple that with like science and these other things that now says, well, look what man has done, right? I mean, look what man did at the Tower of Babel, and the Lord struck that down, and then we had all these different languages at that point. So humanism to me can be a very subtle thing, but it can be very dangerous as well. And I think it's something that you have to pay close attention to it, because again, it's about elevating man and man's achievements and man's independence, or man's ability to do for him or herself, rather than being dependent upon the Lord.
I like that, because I think we got to even break it down to little pieces. Like we talk about, like Jeff said, idolatry of things or a concept or a mission or a purpose. And then I will tell you, and I like the way that just clicked in together, like we did with Xavier's 2 point. Well, in order for that to become something people latch onto, there had to be somebody preaching that people idolized and believed in and put them over God to follow them. There was something that just recently happened with a 12-year-old boy, and I cannot recall the whole story, but it caused a hubbub this week of so many people talking about what this 12-year-old boy did, and it was pretty much on fire on Twitter. And I like what one man said is, okay, guys, we can sit here and beat up this 12-year-old boy, but let's just stop and let's go one step backwards. Who's the adult that planted that, who started that, and who poured into him to get him to idolize him and then go do whatever it is he told him to do? We got to go even to the foundational piece. And so I really like, what you said, Quint, because we got to go even to the man, not just to the things and the what and the missions and the purposes. There's normally a man who starts some of those things. Okay. There's normally somebody who starts that focus. So I absolutely love that. Jeff, let me come to you next. Okay. What's your second one? Okay. That you have.
Well, I'd like to touch on what Quinn and X talked about.
Okay.
One of the things that happened with not dealing with mental health and we have these young men that are walking into schools and shooting up their classmates.
Come on.
And we try to focus on parenting. It's the parents' fault.
That's good.
And I heard someone give the best explanation. He goes, PTSD was a diagnosis created in 1980. So every generation of man who went to war in the U.S. was told that there was nothing wrong with them until 1980. Every generation of warrior, soldier, fighter, father was raised by a broken man from the first war in the U.S.
Wow.
And he passed on that generational curse to the next generation that then went to war.
That's good, Jeff.
And raised children, married a woman, built businesses, started churches.
Come on. Woo! Go back to that man. Yeah.
So when Afghanistan and Iraq came about, it became this diagnosis that all of a sudden it was acceptable to talk about. And we lost the generation that was my father's generation that came back from Vietnam, that everybody said they were just crazy.
Come on, Jeff.
So we have a whole culture who has to recognize that it's not occurring today. It's been happening for generations and generations. And we have to acknowledge that and put our arms around that and understand we're trying to solve a problem that's been around, before most of us can reach back in our families to recognize that was a problem. So that's something that's huge. And,
that is huge.
in our communities, it's not something that's spoken about very freely. So we have to get better at that and not, castigating people and putting them in these groups and saying there's something wrong with them and not acknowledging that we created the culture that made that.
Come on, accountability. Come on.
So
that's
one thing. And then you mentioned something we talked a little bit earlier, and me and my mom had this conversation earlier today, is that the church is not responsible for our salvation.
Come on.
They are not.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the world uses that belief
to blame somebody. Yep.
For the reason to not attend.
Come on.
Buddy goes to church and he's out drinking on Saturday night and showing up in the clothes that he wore the night before. He's got trauma in his life, but he showed up at church. So the church is the place for him to go and not be judged, but it's not the source of his salvation. It's the source of his ability to find how to become redeemed. The church is the place that creates the environment for us to go there and then to take that message out into the world.
Come on.
So we're all subject to the errors and flaws that we all have, but it's not the church's, our relationship with God is our responsibility.
Yep.
It's not your pastors.
Come on. Come on.
Sure.
Come on.
And then you talk about, whether the church needs to go out in the community or not. You are the church going out into the community.
Yeah.
We are the church going out into the
community. Come on. That's my point. Go.
And we need to be more vocal about that. And talking about the second part you want to talk about next week, one of the things that I recognize the problem is that we're too quiet.
Oh.
We watch stuff happen. We watch things that are wrong. We watch people do wrong, and we know it's wrong, and we shut our mouths.
Yeah.
And it's someone else's problem to fix. They don't have time. We don't have the energy. It's not my responsibility.
That's good.
As long as we're going to be quiet, we're contributing to the problem. And so the big part of it for me is that we have to recognize our own personal responsibility. It's not someone else's job to keep us in any space or in the straight and narrow or in the word. It's our job to make the decision to either give our life to Christ or not.
Yeah.
And my grandma used to say, it's okay not to give your life to Christ. Just don't eat at my dinner table.
Oh, your grandma drew the line.
Because she was a believer that you could get struck down at any moment. So it's our personal responsibility. And I think the world has it. They can focus on the errors that occur in the church or the place of worship or whatever that is. And that can be their excuse because we've allowed people to believe that the church is where you get your salvation, not your personal relationship with Christ.
I agree with that. And I think it's really important too that people understand, again, we got to go almost back to when the first church was started. Now, yes, Jesus gathered people. So to me, we could go to Jesus started the first church, but when you talked about gathering like a church, it was really Paul. And it's interesting because when we look at what church was, it was a gathering. It was a place where you could commune, have fellowship, talk, teach, and learn. But when it came to provision, when it came to, even healing, like I think I saw Carrie say healing, God does that. God is even the one who provides the healing through doctors, through surgeons, but it's still him who's the one over it all. That's why I think part of the issue we have is we've divided things from God versus everything being under God. Then it's God we go to first, and then here comes everything. And I really believe that what you just touched on is powerful, because I still go back and I will always defend the church. I always, because when I persecute the church, I feel I'm persecuting Christ. I do, and nothing's perfect, but I do believe that there is a level of responsibility the church has, and God has laid that out for the church. I do think he calls the church, which is us, the body of believers. We are a church as well. Where I think when we read the Bible, we've got to make sure to, really study when he's saying church, when there really wasn't a church back then really God was talking about his body of believers. I'm going to say that one more time. Somebody needs to hear that. There really wasn't a Christ-driven type building church. It was man, Pharisees, Sadducees, that made a building. There was a place of worship that you went to, a vestibule, a sanctuary, and then the holy place where Christ was at. Solomon was the one, to build that, because David couldn't, and people worship. But if you go and read 1 Kings that we're studying 8, Solomon threw down a prayer that said people didn't even have to come there. They could be thousands of miles away, and as long as they returned towards the temple or looking up at the heavens, God was everywhere. God could meet them where they were at versus them having to go. And that was the only way that they could have a relationship. He said, Lord, meet them where they are. That as long as they turn towards you, Lord, and throw their hands up, that you will hear them and you will forgive them and you will bless them. So even Solomon was saying a prayer, that God be with them no matter where they are. And then I loved it because how was the temple built? Solomon just didn't do it. It took the body of people to come together to be unified to build the temple. It took everybody building the temple, not just Solomon. It took everybody agreeing and becoming unified and being about one thing. And division, you can't accomplish anything. Scripture says the house divided can't stand. And this was Solomon's job. David was to unify the people, but Solomon's job was to now get them to live in the life of Christ, to really now rebuild, to create God in where he's living among them and really glorifying him. And so I just feel like we got to be careful. And I love what you brought up, Jeff, because I cannot tell you, I love the benefits of a church because it really helps you to stay strengthened. It helps you to be around what you believe. It allows you to be able to have healthy friendships that are on the same pursuit and path you are. There is a shepherd over you, and he has a responsibility over you to tend to you, to even help you in bringing a message to you and breaking it down for your understanding. But when it comes to that relationship, and scripture says it, when it comes to who's going to take care of you, who's going to provide for you, who's going to give to you, it's not the church. Because then what we'll do is we'll put church over God, and we already know how he feels about that. He tore that down. Okay, it's really putting things in ordained order, and that's what you're talking about, Jeff. And I absolutely agree with that. And so, man, this is a really good topic. Again, I didn't know where God was going, and I love it. You know what, Pastor? You said the same thing. Division can't accomplish anything. Exactly. So this is really what we're talking about, and so I love that. All right, and then so I think next would be Byron. If I'm going in order, who's left is Byron. If you want to bring your second one, and then we're gonna close it out with everybody bringing their last one. So Byron, what's your second one that you've got?
My second one's pretty serious.
Hey.
It has to do with the fact that I think we need to get rid of cartoons.
Oh my God! Come on! Look at Quint laughing. Byron, we are in sync. Okay, go, Byron. We are so in sync. Go.
And We might not be.
No, no, no. Here we are.
We might be.
Okay.
In children's books, old children's books.
Mm, mm.
I say that really because it kind of falls under what. Oh, and I even said old comedians and their indelicacies. So
I see where you're going now. Okay, go.
Yeah, my thought with it, there's a
you
lot
gonna
of
throw rock music in there too, Byron?
His mama did, which is why that joke is.
I could throw a few genres in there for sure.
His mama did.
Could have been.
That's cute.
But where I'm going here, if it all kind of bubbles up to something that I've been taking exception to, being I guess a baby boomer, is political correctness, right? So I have a problem I struggle with, and I'll just put it out there when it comes. So I'm ready to get rid of political correctness. I understand its intent, right? But just like anything, when it comes, and this is not a topic. No, I won't go there because it's too controversial. But there are many tools that we have in our possession that we can use, right? You can take any tool and use it for purposes it's not intended or should be. You can take a shovel that's used for digging up dirt and kill a man with it, right? So when it comes to trying to be politically correct, trying to correct things to align with things that basically that were put out at their time, that may have been okay in context, may have not been okay in context, right? I say that there is nothing that I'm aware of, this man, that can withstand the measure of time, other than the word, other than scripture. So when we try to judge individuals, and there's a this doesn't fit everything, but when it gets to the point that we're trying to go back and say, you know what, man, what was Dr. Seuss thinking, right? What was he thinking? Or if you're going to mess with my Popeye cartoons back in the day, you got a fight going on, or you're going to deal with Captain Kangaroo. You're going to try to tell me Captain Kangaroo was wrong. I'm going to say, let's deal with right now. Context matters, and the context by which we should be judging people, judging things that are going on. It's right there. It is right here. This is the tool by which we should be judging people, right? Not making up a bunch of nonsense, and not necessarily looking to have a voice, so much so in political correctness, but more so about having that relationship, I say, with Christ, helping those people, because you don't have to worry about political correctness so much. So if you can get a person to have a focus on Christ, you can have a focus on people that have a central focus and having a personal relationship with God. So I think when we waste our time, I'm not trying to be insensitive, because again, I come from a generation where we were fairly insensitive, right? Many of the comedians that I grew up on, a Richard Pryor, for example. Oh my gosh, can you call yourself a Christian man and go to a Richard Pryor show today? Probably not. Back then, probably not. But I think it's a tool in the sense of political correctness that's being used inappropriately, or we're taking a tool, an idealism, and using it beyond what's necessary, right? Me personally. So yeah, it's just, I told my daughter, I said, when we look back, when we talk about, this time that we live in today, right, there's going to be a ton of lessons learned, right? Things that we're going, especially with the pandemic. But even when we talk about, we absolutely have to deal with inequalities, so on and so forth, right? And I think there's so many ways by which us to approach that, but expecting that all things can stand up to time. You know, I'd even go as far. I mentioned this to my teammate. You know, it would be to say that men, that our founders of the Constitution, right? And I know we don't get too much into politics, but that they could absolutely put down a doctrine or doctrines, right, that could withstand without amendment or without other due considerations, right? As though they had the gift of speech and teaching that Jesus Christ did. They're men. They're men. So yeah, so I think we need to get out of the mentality of being critical of imperfection, right? Because imperfection is going to always exist unless until the time at which we're blessed to be by the side of our Maker, right? I think at that point might be the only time that Byron can feel, you know what, I must be pretty good because where I'm at. But until that point, realize the imperfections and don't necessarily be looking to always find imperfections in others.
Byron, that's a really, really good one. Just because I'm going to tell you that the biggest, you said everything was big, but the one line I want to take out and I want to blow up. One line you said is that how could we expect for man or woman, anybody who did something, wrote something, said something back then, to have been correct with what is today? And again, doesn't mean that it's not wrong. Okay, that's a whole other discussion. The only person that could write something, be about something that is right, and to the point that is what is appropriate, whatever, that can be and stand thousands and thousands and thousands of years, there's only one person that could do that, is Jesus Christ, what the word is about. So that's deep. That's a whole other show.
Yeah, let that be your measure, right?
Yeah, that's it.
And so this is the piece that
that's deep.
I felt strong enough that I was talking about. Let's have a second take on it, Tracy, to your earlier point.
Part
right?
2 next week.
Kind of expanding on that, because my other item that I'm not going to get into though kind of touches on some of the things that I fall into kind of under that umbrella.
Yeah.
A part 2 for sure.
Sure. I'm going to tell you, there's so much from what you said, and that is a topic that we almost have to make one show because it is so controversial. Because I think where people start to battle it, they're more focused on if it was right or not than a whole nother level. Because we could pick, my God, so many things that were wrong. But at the same time, I'm telling you, that one sentence you said, the one thing you said, which is why I want to add on, and y'all are not going to like me when I say this, I don't even want to look at the camera, which is why for us to judge anybody, the word says nobody has the right to judge but him. Nobody should be judging anybody. According to what the word says, he's the only one that has the right to judge. And the only time that there was a man or a woman is when he brought judges to judge the people. Okay? Hello. The books are called Judges. He brought judges to judge the people. But when it comes to really deciding and judging, God says nobody. Because then what you're doing is you're putting yourself in his spot and making yourself God. And it doesn't mean that you don't have feelings and thoughts and we can't say what's right and what's wrong. But when we start to now go to judging, and I like what Solomon says, I'm telling you, I've got to go read 1 Kings 8. The very first thing he lays out happens to be court. This is crazy how things should be judged. He covers that first, and I think there's a reason. I don't know it. I haven't dove deep yet. Why did he cover that one first? If he's solidifying a covenant with God, and all his people are joined, and they're before the Lord, and the first thing he wants to talk about is how are people tried, and how are people convicted? And the first thing he makes clear is that it isn't man who does it. God does it. Y'all really got to go read that. I'm actually covering it tomorrow. It's the first thing he really wants to kind of lay out as to the way things should be in order and how. is when it comes to people who have done wrong and offense against somebody. Who should judge it and how should it be judged? He covers that in 1 King 8. So that's really good, Byron. That's really good. All righty, so we're going to go to the last one, you guys, and then we're going to close out. This is so good, Lord. I just, all I heard was James Brown on Monday. That was it. And y'all just, if y'all didn't really know how God works with me, y'all would think I was crazy, would probably lock me up until you see what happens on the show. Be like, oh yeah, she's all right, release her. She's all right, you can release her. Without guards, you can release her. I'd be out for a pass or something. But God really does speak to me through stuff like that. And so I want to now go first to you, Quint. And then I'm going to end with Xavier is how I'm going to do it. And so Quint, what's your third one?
Yeah, my mind's racing through several things.
Look at Carrie. Come on, Pastor Q. We got to get rid of pride. Who's with me?
Well,
Go, Carrie.
I was going to say sin, but
sin is 7 deadly sins. Yeah, go on, Q.
I'm kind of back and forth. This one is a sin, but it is a sense of man's sense of superiority, as if a group of men or men and women, a group of people has a more right view, has a more or because of our color, because of our upbringing, or because of whatever, we're superior.
Like the Sadducees and the Pharisees. Come on, look at it. Repeat.
Yeah, I mean that's an example.
Yeah.
You could there's examples all over.
Hey, Lovey.
How one race or one kingdom or one nationality believed they were better, greater than others, and then subjugated them. In that ancient world in biblical times, they would go conquer another nation and they'd all become slaves. And life was not good. Today,
go on, Carrie.
That's pride. There's a lot of things.
Go, Carrie.
It's pride, it's envy, it's a number of things.
Yeah, it is.
Today, that plays itself out in racism. That's a form of it, where one group of men or one group of women believes they're better than the other for whatever reason.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's got to go. We're all, somebody, I think maybe Byron said it, we're all flawed beings.
Yeah, come on.
We've all sinned since the first Adam.
Come on.
The person down the street is no better than or no worse than me. And if you think that you're better than them, you're only one decision away from the fall yourself. Then.
Come on. There's that pride. There you go, Carrie.
One decision. Decision
come on.
To do it. So, we've got to get rid of this sense that, some group is superior to another, that they have a superior thought process or whatever it may be.
That's good.
It is pride. It is elevating one above the Lord. It's a number of things. It's a number of lies that get spun all together to make this person, make this group or whoever it is think that they are any better than someone else. It's judgmental. God tells us it's not our place to judge. It's His.
Yeah.
So
and
that's the one I'll rest on.
Well, and the measures they will go through when they don't agree with something. How far are they willing to go to eradicate the difference where there's no barriers, there's no, integrity, there's no God in their actions as to what they do. And they can't say that God would respond that way, because God wouldn't respond that way. Even people that are actually workers for God, they can do that, because they think that because they're workers for God, that puts them in a higher seat of authority. And they end up not realizing that you put yourself in a seat above God in his own business. Ooh, be careful. Be careful. So thanks, Q. I appreciate that. Jeff, I'm coming to you. Man, here we go, fellas. Y'all are just bringing men. I'm telling you, men do talk, y'all. They do. Go ahead, Jeff.
There's a lot, and I was trying to figure out how to narrow it down to 3. And then as we talked, my list just got longer.
Yeah, yeah.
But,
come on.
I wanted to touch on what Byron mentioned about PC.
Yeah.
And
I'm going to bring that message up again. Keep going. I'm just popping it over my face. I
want to touch that. If we communicate with integrity, honesty, and empathy, PC is not necessary. So PC is actually being deceitful because it's not your true view on the topic. So I've always been curious about that, because I don't have a filter. When I was in corporate America, the CEO of First USA Bank used to tell me that I had corporate ignorance. I wanted to shut my mouth. If they asked me a question, I gave him an answer. And he appreciated that. So, and I think that that's just how people should be. People are going to have the opportunity to have their feelings hurt or be disappointed and all those things, but I can deal with the truth.
Yeah.
I can't deal with someone making me feel okay about something and not giving me the truth, because I'm operating as if they gave me the truth. Yeah. And I move through life with the belief that we're in agreement.
Oh,
and we're not.
That's good, Jeff. That's good.
And so that's what I get from that. And the other one that I don't know, I had a couple that I wavered back and forth to, and I get the one that I think is important for us important for me, is we've created this environment of a cancel culture.
You know what? That's really strong. Yeah, you're really strong on this one this year and last year. This is a big one for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't have a problem with someone saying something that the world views should be offensive to me or the people that look like me, because that's their opinion, and I have to from the beginning respect where it came from, because they only have their experience, and I don't know their experience. So how can I tell them that they're wrong from their experience? I have a problem with shutting that person down to the point to where I can never educate them on why I believe that what they're saying may not be correct. I can't have that conversation if you dismiss that person to a point to where they disappear and don't have the ability to defend their position, because the conversation is where the growth comes from, not from telling them they're wrong and getting rid of them, because the definition of ignorance is they don't know any better. And we're punishing people for being ignorant. And the example that I gave, I had a conversation with my father, and don't get offended if you're from West Virginia. If I meet someone from West Virginia who grew up in the mountains, who's never seen a black person, who only has the history of who black people are from someone who's never met a black person who has an opinion about them that's negative, and they share that negativity with me, I'm as ignorant as they are if I take offense to it, defend
Byron was saying
them, and attack them.
Yes.
Instead of taking the opportunity to tell them why they might be wrong.
Come on. Oh, I got chills because come on.
I can't make them responsible for not having the information.
Yeah.
And I can't be irresponsible and not provide it, or at least try.
Yeah. Come on.
And I'm wasting my time, my energy, and my gift in fighting with a person who doesn't know why you're fighting with them.
Ooh.
Because his belief is that he's right.
Come on.
And you presented to them to share with them that they may not be.
And that's hard to do.
I understand that. And I see that on both sides. I see people get offended. Oh, that's offensive.
Yeah.
Well, why is it offensive?
Yeah.
Well, they said this.
Yeah.
Well, why did they say this? Well, I don't know. It's just offensive. No, it's not. You choose to be offended.
Yeah.
And you're ignorant of the reason they said it.
Oh, wow.
So it's this circle of stupidity that goes out into the public, the media gets a hold of, and, we got 5% representation in Seattle, and all of a sudden people are talking about race because people are fighting in the streets.
Yeah.
Just ignorance, so we have to be okay with having people who disagree with us having the opportunity to stand their ground and have that conversation with us. And we have to be willing to have that conversation with them without having animosity, anger, and hatred wrapped in it, because there's no basis for it.
Yes, and to listen and not immediately get pissed or cut them off. I mean, oh my gosh, Jeff, I know this is the reason why I'm so on this one, because you've spoken a lot about this one on the show. So I know you enough. You're not going to spend or waste time on something if it's old news. You're still bringing this up because there's still an issue and a major problem with it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And just to touch on it, there's 2 or 3 great shows on Netflix where Killer Mike is one, and I can't, Kumar, another comedian. They go into these hostile environments to meet these people who hate people that look like them. And they find that these people have the same love and compassion for their family as they do, and that hatred is built on ignorance.
Yeah,
and they end up sitting at the table having dinner with these people and meeting their children and having an understanding about what's valuable to them. And that person's never had that opportunity before.
Yeah.
And that's where the solutions come from.
Yeah.
The solutions come from sitting with someone who doesn't look like you, wasn't raised like you, doesn't understand like you.
Yeah.
But is willing to have a conversation with you, and you're willing to do the same.
Yes, and to be a listener, not try to always be the educator. Yes.
And then the other is that we can't judge the success of that interaction by that person becoming this person who invites you to barbecues. We have to judge the success on that by the ability or the success of that person being willing to listen to you.
Yeah.
That's the only goal.
Yeah, that's good.
Hear who I am, know me, judge me.
Yeah.
And then hopefully they'll go through life and they'll begin to judge other people like me the same way.
Yeah.
So I think that's one of the biggest frustrations. And one of the lessons I learned from that was I was really adamant with, attacking things and engaging people where I saw them.
Yeah.
And then one of my dear friends sent me a message on Facebook, and they're like, you can talk to them on Facebook about broad topics. If you want their life to change, you have to DM them.
Oh, we just got a message like
have
this.
A sensible conversation on the wall of Facebook, Instagram, wherever.
Yeah.
You can have interaction that starts the conversation, but you have to go DM and go direct and be considerate and be conscious and and be in that space. Because every idiot in the world is going to support whatever chaos they can create on that wall, because that's more exciting than 2 people actually going, you know what, you might be right. So that's something that I think that we created, and the media perpetrates on us as being how life works. Yeah. And you have to pay attention in your circle that that's not how it works. And then you have to take that circle and expand it out and have those conversations. And, Emmanuel Acho did an amazing job with his little video thing that he did, complicated conversation with a black man.
Yes.
Uncomfortable conversation with a black man.
You forced me to watch that. You threatened me, Jeff, to watch it.
His book was a tremendous success.
Yeah.
He wrote a children's book. That talks about how we raise our children and how our children interact in households where the men and the people are subjugated to those types of responses. So he's committed to that cause. And I actually pre-ordered the book and hope to be able to read it and share it with other people. But you have to be willing to have the conversation. And it was beautiful to watch the people who were willing to get on his video and put their life and their views out there to the public to see.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a brave place to be.
That's a brave place.
So that's that's one of my topics that I'm committed to continue to champion until we see some improvement.
And I love that. You shared a video where he was actually being interviewed, and he was very intense, but very not disrespectful. He was just honest, and it was a good interview that you sent. And so I love that. Carrie, I took away your comment just because it almost covered all of Jeff's face and realized that wasn't good. So now that Jeff shared it, I'm going to pop it back up and let it breathe. But I couldn't have, Jeff covered while he was talking. And so with that, man, I'm going to go to you, Byron, to your number 3, unless I've already come to you and I'm messing up my number. I didn't think
you haven't. Nope, you're good.
Yeah,
that's what I thought. My brother X will be last.
Yeah, X will be last. Yeah.
and appreciate it. So mine is, I struggled to find the right way to describe what I wanted to talk about, and I couldn't really find it. But I like what I ran across, and this kind of envelops what I really want to talk about getting rid of. But I laugh when I read back at you know, your question. You say three things that man created that needs to die. I was like, serious, sister is serious. She said, not just kind of cease or just pause, stop, but die. I was like, ooh, where was she at? Oh Lord. Send it to hell.
I was on James Brown, so God put me in that intensity. I was doing James Brown on Monday.
I was like, this is gonna be deep.
Yeah.
So trying to go with that deep. What needs to die? I mean, is something that's been around for ages. Is and this is just I'm gonna define what this is, but it's social stratification. So social stratification. I mean, for those some of us, yeah, if you went to any kind of school, you were brainwashed into understanding what and how we operate in the United States, right? You basically have to be prepared to fit some level of that stratification. United States, right? In the United States, we've got, lower class, middle class, upper class, right? And you also have to buy into the fact of the principles that support that, right? And one of the main principles is that you have to buy into is inequality. You have to, right? The USA can't function the way it is, right? If equality is a focus. So I find it funny. It's funny in the sense, I mean, because as long as we have this stratification, right? You have to have inequality to support that grouping, that stratification. You have to have people that are basically going to serve others. You have to have someone that's going to benefit, right, more so than others, right? You're going to always have that percentage of people that are going to be at the top, right, that are benefiting the most, right? And why are they benefiting the most? Because their focus is on themselves and not others. Many of them will get to the top, get really comfortable, right? And say, oh, okay, now I'm comfortable. Now I'm gonna start doing some things for people, right? My days are numbered. Oh Lord, help me. I better do something. I better start serving others, right? As far as I'm concerned, if you got to be a billionaire, you failed. Hey, I don't care. Me personally, right? The structure is, it really supports, across the world, right? People being abused, people being taken advantage of, people being, not allowed to be successful. It's think about this, and this is another piece that's important of our societal stratification. What can you think of that yields success? That doesn't have a competitive component to it, right? And that competitive component is such that you basically have to put yourself above others. You have to be better than anyone else, right? When that's basically at the core of what we do. And you're set up as a young person to the day to basically put yourself before others. I mean, above others, right? To stand out, right? I remember right toward the end of coaching soccer with my brother, and actually no, with my daughter Brittany, and we went to this phase. I can't remember what it was called, but it was a phase where it was almost like there were no winners, right? Everyone won, right? There was no first place, second place, third place, that kind of thing, and I had a really hard time adopting to that. Right? Because, we're always, there always got to be a number one, right? There's always got to be someone that loses. There's always got to be someone on the bottom. And I really think about, again, any walk with Christ, right? try to support, right, the stratification, the inequalities that we have in the world today, and say that that's the Christian way. Tell me, show me in the Bible, right, where it supports that the stratification that we have today, the inequalities that we have today. It's, as we, and people struggle with that, right? I mean, the fight is real. Some people don't want that change. They want that stratification to stay where it is because it serves their purpose. They don't want it flattened. They want that pyramid. They want the majority of the masses at the bottom to be treated unfairly, unjust, inequality, and to be unsuccessful, right? Because those unsuccessful people feed into them, into their success, into their ideological ways and tendencies, as far as basically just being selfish, right? Just being successful and successful for themselves and not others. So for me, breaking down that system, which won't happen in my lifetime, it is the place that is the thing that I would like to see die, because the nature of that beast, that mechanism, supports the inequality that we have today and the problems that we have today. It is flawed in its system, and you can churn inside that the confines of that as much as you want. You can make as much noise as you want. We can do as many marches, as many speeches as we want, as long as you have that structure. It's still contained and driven by that structure. And so you might as well be that gerbil in the wheel, just run 100 miles an hour and just spin and going no freaking where, because of that mechanism.
Wow.
So anyway,
I love what you brought, because I was sitting here really leaning into you and leaning into God. And I know we're covering this next week, and I saw Pastor T, he commented where I'm going. So I thought, okay, well, Pastor T is commenting, so maybe that's the Lord saying, say it. I'm going to agree 100% with you, Byron, on this. And I'm going to read the scripture again. Okay, let's go back to what I led with to cover the show. 1 John chapter 2, verses 15 through 7. 1 John chapter 2, 15 through 17. Do not love this world, nor the things it offers. For when you love the world, you do not have the love of the Father in you. For the world offers only a craving for physical pleasures, a craving for everything we see, and pride in our achievements and possessions. These are not from the Father, but are from this world. And this world is fading away, along with everything that people crave. But anyone who does what pleases God will live forever. So this is what I'm going to say, and I am going to part 2 already, because I want to breathe this. I want God to really breathe over this topic. This is where I'm going to anchor. When you allow yourself to not just be in the world, of the world, I'm going to tell you 100% that is the world. But I want to speak so to the power of Jesus Christ that when you truly submit to the best of your ability, because you're a sinner, so you can't submit it all, you're going to fail to try to submit it all. You're not perfect. But when you make a choice in your heart to submit it all, I got to preach the word of God here right now. I'm going to sit here and tell you that God will not make you subject to that. You'll be in it, you'll be around it, but you'll be amazed what God does. He will literally let it be all around you, but as he did with, in Daniel, where literally they were in the fire, but not one of them was touched. Not one of them, had to deal in that. Wow, if y'all can see my screen, okay, I really know I'm touching something. If y'all can see what's happening to my screen right now, I don't want you guys to think I'm crazy, but I want to show you this. So I know this has to be the Lord. It is, of course, when I show it to you, it's going to stop, but it was freaking out. I am really going to tell you that that's where the freedom that God gives you from what is the reign of the enemy. The enemy is to oppress, to keep you in slavery, to have divisions, to have classes, to have people over you, to promote people and give them money who don't maybe care about people. But I'm going to tell you, I've watched the Lord promote people and create billionaires who all he's done is create billionaires to serve the people. Because there's got to be somebody over here. There's got to be people over here that God, even Solomon was that. Solomon was one of the richest people of all, but it was because he followed Christ. And through that, everybody was prosperous. But somebody in God's world became, David was rich, a billionaire. So I'm just going to say that when you allow yourself to be, again, don't get me wrong, there's a reality here, but watch what God will do, that he will put those things in your life. He will break those bonds. He will even come and intercede and have whatever's trying to be subjective unto you, that they'll fight each other and he'll just remove it. You know, it is truly where I've seen him do that. And so this is really kind of what this discussion is about, which goes back to Tuesday. The carrying of the cross is hard, but when you look at what God will do, there is no other life, because what man serves, what man does, what man's about, which is what Byron is saying, I'm going to sit here and tell you, they're not about those things. That is something that needs to go. But I believe that God has provided a way and an answer. Doesn't mean we don't go through things, but God will always have a period, or he'll have a comma where somebody tried to put a period. And I just want to preach the gospel of Jesus Christ and the power of Jesus Christ, because I want to just make sure that we don't believe that man has more power than Christ, that man has more control. The only way the enemy has control, I'm going to end with this, is if we, the people, give it. Systems and rules cannot thrive if there are enough people to do something about the change. Somebody on here tonight said, we don't speak up, we're quiet. I believe that God is raising up his people to no longer be quiet. Because when we're quiet or we don't do anything, or we look for the church to do it, or we look for this person, or we criticize this person, we judge this person, I'm going to sit here and tell you, I think Quint may have logged up. He had to go get on Boogie probably. Boogie crossed the threshold, y'all. Colonel Papa's on the scene. You know, to where I'm going to sit here and tell you 100%. But I believe in the power of God, and I believe that God is more powerful than man. And I believe that this is what God is doing right now. He's fighting for his people. But when you come down, like I believe God is, things will get worse before they get better. We know when we received Christ, to me, things got worse before they got better, because there was things in our life that we thought were good that God's like, this has got to go. This has got to go. I'm sorry, baby, this is going to hurt, but this has really got to go. It is truly where the lights are turning on. God is willing and dealing, which is why now you see all these things that have been done in the past are coming to the surface. People who did this to these people, who did this. You see all these sexual trafficking rings being caught. I really believe that that's where we're going, because our God is like, no man is above me. No man is. But when we turn and align to Christ, and we give ourselves to Christ, and we put him back over the throne, then now Christ is really doing and reigning in the world. And I just had to say that because I'm with Byron on that, 100%. Oh my God, Pastor T, he says we must walk through every door God opens, be prepared to win in any area. We've got to see win, and we got to see victory, because enemy is defeat. Enemy is there's no way. Enemy, it ain't going to happen. God's like, I will make a way when there is no way. So I love what you said, Byron, because I'm standing with you 100% in that. But I want to also stay with Byron and say word, and there is a hope and an answer. And that's what I think God is calling us to, is that. And so with that, X, you get to close us out. Man, Byron closed us out hard last week. Wow, man, I heard a pin drop, a mic drop. I heard an animal drop, but God caught it. So God says it's you, funny. Xavier. So what is your last one? And we'll close it out.
It's funny because there was like multiple ones that I have on here when it comes to like, eradicating like pornography, eradicating
we got
negative news on media,
Woo!
race on applications and baked lendings, like stuff like that.
Come on.
And then also I put down like eradicating the current education system, because it's not setting up a lot of people up for success. It's not teaching the life skills that people need.
Mm-hmm.
Kids are growing up learning accounting skills, public
Come
speaking
on,
skills,
X.
leadership skills when it comes to financial literacy,
Come on.
networking with people, speaking, handling objections, sales. Like I always tell people, like the number one thing that you really want to have in life is sales. Because if you understand sales, you'll always have financial stability because you'll know how to sell something. Like you'll know what to do to make an income, right?
Mm-hmm.
But, I think what God kept leading me to in this situation was, the thing was to eradicate the hatred of God within society in the school system.
Yeah, come on, that's good.
So the hatred of God within society in the school system, because back in the days, we used to speak a lot about God within the school systems, right? The Pledge of Allegiance, you used to say it, one nation under God. You used to say a prayer in class. You were able to pray in class and all that. And now you're not able to do that type of stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's crazy because the other day I actually went to Jovan's Cub Scout ceremony, and during that we did the Pledge of Allegiance, and at the same time they opened up with a prayer, and I was surprised because I was like, man, they're gonna open up with a prayer? Like, okay, this is what I'm talking about. I guess he's in the right spot, right?
Yeah.
So it just felt really good to see that happening, especially Jovan, stop. Especially with the kids, right? Because our future depends on these children.
Yeah, yeah.
So what's happening in society today is that they want to keep us quiet when it comes to spreading the message of God, right? They want to keep us quiet when it comes to spreading the message of God in school, in the school system, and everything like that. So, and they want to keep us, ignorant when it comes to financial literacy and all that stuff within the school system, and not knowing any type of, not knowing any type of, business, and all that stuff in the school systems, which, it kills me to say that because it kind of sucks. So, I just think that it's our responsibilities, especially as Christians, to, like Jeff said, to, step up and be vocal, be very vocal about when it comes to speaking about God and stepping into the purpose and talking about it. At the same time, not being ignorant and learning about it. Like if you're ignorant about the fact that you don't know about the word, get into the word. If you're ignorant about the fact about, different business strategies or whatever it is like that, learn about different things so that way you're able to teach your kids so your kids don't grow up the same way that you grew up,
Yeah.
It's just that's how I feel, So, but ultimately, we need to eradicate the hatred of God within society and the school system. That needs to go away.
I love it because there's a covering that we don't keep over the school systems when we remove the covering. Hello. That prayer is so that they're starting their day with God covering the schools. We've seen what's happened more so than ever before. And so I totally agree with that. And I'm going to tell you what I heard and what Byron started with, what I said, what Jeff said, you said, and even Quint said it. And here's what I'm hearing right now. This whole thing is about becoming a superhero for Christ. God's way of changing things, of eradicating things, and he could just touch it and do it. But I'm going to go back to what I said at the beginning. He's wanting us to do it. So if we see that these things are happening, then we need to raise up. And I've heard this said before, and I think it was Jeff who preached it many months back ago. And you're saying it again. Byron's saying, hey, this is an issue that needs to be gone because it'll never, ever change. And then I've heard you say it just now, Xavier, and even when it comes to, like you were saying, business and economics, is that there are things that are not being taught to our kids anymore, being taught to that generation where they're not being educated, they're not being equipped, they're not getting the wisdom and the knowledge. They're downright coming out of school or even struggling in school, not even knowing what to do. And so I feel like we've got to raise up different systems and programs and teachings and education so that even if the enemy's plan is to class us and make it where there's a high and a low, God can raise up his army of children and say, well, that's not how I'm going to want it. because I'm raising up my superheroes to come and be the thing that if you're not going to get them to the top, if you're not going to educate them, I'm going to take my people, my church, and I'm going to raise up superheroes that they're going to get the education to them. They're going to teach them how to win. They're going to help them to know finances. They're going to help them to know my word. They're going to help them to know who I am. But if we are waiting for man to do it versus we being the church, transfiguration, Christ in us doing it, then I'm going to sit here and tell you there is no loss. Everything that is not of Christ will change through us. Through us. It's like, again, don't throw popcorn, but I love this movie. It's like building our own Wakanda. We're building our own heaven here on earth. You're operating this way, but God says that I am not of you. I'm just in it. So I'm going to be of God, and this is the world God's creating. And just like Paul, Paul would literally, be about doing certain things and learning different skill sets in order for him to pay for his ministry, just so he could keep the word alive, because that wasn't the way back then. So I feel like there's a way that we can take the knowledge that we've gotten and we could give it to the people who nobody would ever get to the top. Nobody would ever get that education. They would never bring those things in the communities to help those kids win. Then what about us? We can bring it to them. We can educate it. We can create our own division over here under God, and everything under God will be right. And as I said before, then the minority becomes the majority. This is what God is saying. And that's why us being quiet, us just criticizing it, but not stepping up and doing something about it, is only going to keep things that need to be eradicated there. He's looking for us to be the change. He's looking for us to be downright so frustrated, because this is how people that become revolutionary, they get tired of seeing something. And they get tired of it being one way that they decide to do something about it. Before you know it, a big old wave of change happens. God's trying to get us tired of the way things are and knowing the word, what God says, and no longer saying that what the word is won't happen here on earth. We're going to live the word, not just speak it or preach it. We're going to live the life of what Christ is today, not just when we get in heaven, because God says it's supposed to be that way. But we're supposed to be the ones to do it. We could create a whole nother world here because God says we're not of the world. We're of him. And if the Holy Bible says it, then I'm not accepting anything as my status quo if God didn't say it, because I'm not of the world. I'm not of man. My DNA is with him, and it's what he says in the Holy Bible. And I should not accept those things ever that go against Christ, ever. And that's what I'm hearing from all my brothers and with my husband today. So this is really good. So guys, this has been deep. 2 hours again. We're going into deep water, people. Woo! Man, and I'm scared because, yes, one of the topics is pornography, but I've not heard the Lord bring that to me yet. I'm nervous about that one, but I know we got to go there. We've already talked about this, brothers. We know we got to go there this year. And so with that, you guys, and let me just go ahead and cover one thing for Q. I still think that we've got to really start looking at the things that are airing on Disney, the things that are airing for children on Netflix. Q, I got your back, because we've only had our granddaughter for 4 days. And the things that are now being presented on what was Disney for us back then shouldn't even be on Disney. Okay, what's in movies like Dreamscape and Pixar shouldn't even be in there. Okay.
Right. I mean, we could just talk about the recent movie that came out. I mean, I can talk quite a bit on what that movie.
We are going to talk about music, movies, and things that the enemy is planting himself in order to not only woo us. He feels like, look, I've already got my hold. He's going to the kids. He's going to the kids. And we have got to monitor and downright eradicate those things. I don't care who they are. Okay, so we got to go. That's another topic. That may even be after part 2. We got to go there. Because, man, I'm so glad I'm me on the job. Because I'm like, hold up. Oh, no. Rewind that. He said, what? And I love Colonel. Colonel was on it too, texting Brianna. Hey, has she watched this before? And he took even a video and sent it to Brianna. Are you listening to what this little boy is saying on Disney? And what the girls around him are singing? Come on. Oh, my gosh. We got to go there with children. That's something that has to go. And so with that, you guys, man, come on, Carrie. Yes. Oh, that's what Carrie, that is what God is saying. And I preached that months ago. He is repeating what he did before, and he is raising up his remnant. Come on, Carrie. That's exactly right. We don't have to take the world. And people who think that we have to, that's part of what we have to eradicate, is that. No, we don't. But we got to just do something about it. We can't expect change if we're not willing to do something. Or we know the saying, to be the difference, to be the change. Okay, so this is really good, you guys. I love you, brothers. Man, long night. I know you're tired. Jeff, you get to maybe get some sleep here in a couple hours. But you are on it, X. Woo! Byron, man, Byron, I see you going into politics, bro. I see you going into politics. I see a future for you, Byron. You can do it. I'll be your manager. We'll get there, Byron. We'll make change for Jesus. We will. Woo, and Q, you hung good. I saw you. Yeah, I saw you on mute, tending to the little, oh, I see your little hand trying to get your attention. You did good. You held the fort, Colonel. You did good, bro. And for all of you, man, thanks for all of the, oh my God, there's Pastor T, becoming God's kingdom builders. I'm telling you, he is telling us to go build it. Well, you go feed my children. I'm telling you, he's raising us up this year. We will not start 2022 the same way we started 2021. This is his plan. He's getting it done through us, you guys. We will have change. Okay, we will. And we can't accept anything else but a victory over it all. We got to speak victory into it. We got to speak it. Okay, so I love you guys. Hey, make sure if you're going to join me tomorrow or watch it, we are diving into 1 Kings 8. And I heard the Lord tell me to go into 9. And I saw it. I'm like, yes, let's nail it. Throw the mic down when we get done. We are covering every single thing that when we are truly been praying to God to come down, Lord, take over, heal our lands. What needs to now be changed and what needs to be the order of how we live life for God to be the one to reign. So he's among us now. That we could be 50,000 miles away and God says you don't even have to make it there, which is what he did in 2020. He removed everything because he needed his kids to know you ain't got to go anywhere. I'll show up there with you. Okay, and I think he did that intentional because there's more people who have a relationship with God today than even ever before. People think people are falling away from God. Don't believe the lie or the hype of the lie. I know more people who are calling out and praying to God than ever before and promoting him and even calling out to him on the actual feed that the enemy's trying to use to denounce him. Holla, I love that. So I love you guys. X, woo, Jeff, Byron, woo, and I will see y'all in the morning, you guys, for Word Up at 8:45 a.m. Central Standard, 9:45 on the East Coast. For all my Californians, man, y'all be joining me in the morning, 6:45 a.m. You guys, for the Word Up as we are studying 1 Kings. We launched it last week, chapter 8, and we are going now into the next section, and that was powerful. You didn't see it last week. You can find it right here on this page. And if you join us tomorrow morning, man, bring your Bible or make sure you put it in your actual work of the weekend to spend time with the Lord and studying the Word, you guys. So I love you. Be blessed and make sure I got everything ready to go. I do. And I will see you tomorrow morning, you guys. Bye, brothers. I love y'all. Have a good one.